We're breaking ground today. We're making a recipe I've never made before. It's not a family favorite. Well, it's not my family favorite, but it is a favorite. Alfajores, caramel cookies from Latin America, filled with dulce de leche. Dulce de leche we're gonna make in this can. Not from this can, we're actually gonna make dulce de leche in this can. Alfajores? I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Where did I find this recipe? Well, it's ripped from today's headlines. Just ripped from today's headlines. In the Washington Post, in the New York Times, the Chicago Tribune. Alfajores, a crispy, tender little sandwich cookie filled with dulce de leche, making headlines across the United States, making headlines across the world. Who's been keeping this a secret? Just who has been keeping this a secret? Welcome to Sweet Spot. Let's get started. We'll start by making dulce de leche, which is the filling that goes between the two cookies for the cookie sandwich. Dulce de leche is simply sugar and milk, simmered for hours over low heat. Or you could buy it pre-made in a jar if you can find it, or you can make it in the can. A can of sweetened condensed milk, not evaporated milk, sweetened condensed milk. Leave the can unopened and let it simmer in water for about 2 to 3 hours over the stove. Unopened. Remove the label though, otherwise it will make a mess. You'll need a large enough pot so the can can be completely covered with water. Fill the pot and you may want to put a rag or small washcloth into the pan so the can doesn't rattle around for 2 to 3 hours. Bring the water to a boil and then reduce the heat to simmer. The longer the sweetened condensed milk simmers, the darker it will become. We're gonna do about 3 hours, and you'll wanna check the pot frequently to make sure the water doesn't evaporate. You want the can completely covered. And make sure you check the pan every so often because the water will evaporate and you want the can completely covered. About halfway through, flip the can. We're gonna start by combining the cornstarch, the flour, the baking powder, and the salt. Simply whisk this together. This recipe calls for 3 egg yolks. Everybody has their own favorite way to separate the whites from the yolks. I found the easiest way to do it is to simply tap, tap, tap on the top of the egg pretty rapidly, and then the yolk just kind of drops out. Save the white for an egg white omelet or some other purpose. And repeat with the other 2 eggs. Decisions, decisions, decisions. It's perpetual. Hand mixing, hand mixer, or stand mixer. Your choice. I'm choosing a stand mixer because I love stand mixers. We start by creaming the butter for a minute or 2. After scraping down the bowl, we add the granulated sugar. And let this combine at high speed for about 2 to 3 minutes. Stop the mixture to scrape down the bowl and clean off the beater. You want this mixture thoroughly combined. Then we add the egg yolks, one at a time, thoroughly combining with each addition. Scrape down the bowl as necessary. Now we add in the extracts, vanilla, almond. Stir to combine. Then the dry ingredients, cornstarch, flour, baking powder, and salt. Now mix on a very slow speed until just combined. This dough will need to be refrigerated since we're going to be rolling these cookies. I like to wrap it in either wax paper or saran wrap. Turn the dough out, then wrap it like a package. Three or 4 hours of chilling is fine, or let it sit overnight. Because of all the cornstarch, I'm guessing these cookies are fairly delicate, so cover your favorite baking sheet or jelly roll pan with some parchment. To roll out the cookie dough, I'm going to use a silicone mat, a roll pat or Silpat or other brands. You can roll directly on the counter, or you could even roll between sheets of parchment paper. You're going to need a little extra flour And of course you're going to need a rolling pin. I like to use a French rolling pin with the tapered edges because it's fun. And finally, you're going to need a cookie cutter. The news media seems to recommend a 2.5 inch or 3 inch cookie cutter, but choose any size you'd like. Or use a juice glass, roughly the same size, doesn't really matter. Sprinkle your rolling surface with a little bit of flour and unwrap your dough. Just move that around a little bit and sprinkle the top with a little flour. I simply flip the dough at this point to make sure it's covered. And then roll out. We're aiming for about 1/8 of an inch thick because these are delicate little cookies. When the dough is fully rolled out, dip your cookie cutter into the flour and cut out circles. Be efficient so you're not wasting your rolled out dough. Dip your spatula in the flour and then carefully transfer the cookies to a cookie sheet. When you filled up your tray, you want to put this into a preheated 350-degree oven. The recipe calls for 12 to 15 minutes, but you want to check at 12 because you want the cookies just beginning to turn brown. These cookies took 18 minutes rather than the 12 to 15 minutes the recipe called for the edges to start becoming brown. I've let them cool on the cookie sheet so they don't fall apart. I suspect they're very delicate. I'm going to put them on a cooling rack to let them cool completely. As these are cooling, let's check out how our dulce de leche turned out, formerly known as sweetened condensed milk. It's turned into a lovely brown color. Let's put it in a bowl. And it's thickened quite nicely. I had been concerned that it'd be too runny to use as a filling, but I'm concerned no more. Assembling the cookie sandwiches will not be a challenge. You simply pick up a bottom. That's by grabbing a top and flipping it over. Now it's a bottom. With a spoon, a spatula, an offset spatula, smear a glob of the dulce de leche on it. You don't have to center it too carefully because when you put a top on it, you can smush it to the edges. Lovely. Roll the cookie in some shredded coconut. And we have a beautiful cookie. Repeat for the others. This video has certainly been a little different since this is an untried recipe. I'm pretty excited to taste these and anxious to get in a bite, so let's do that. They are quite pretty. The dulce de leche is squeezing out a little bit, but it is warm in the kitchen today. Let's go for it. The cookies themselves are so tender, they could be eaten by shortbread all alone. It's buttery rich. The dulce de leche is overwhelming with caramel flavor. It is sweet. The tiny bit of coconut really complements the cookie. Somehow this little bit inserts itself in the mix of flavors. I'm really enjoying this. What a nice surprise. The tender cookie, the sweet inside, the blend of flavors. I love a blend of flavors. I am so glad I tried this recipe. It's on my list as a real keeper. If you enjoyed this video, show your support for the channel. Leave a YouTube thumbs up, a like, a comment, share it with your friends, and if you're not a subscriber, now is the perfect time to subscribe. Hit the subscribe link down below and the little bell icon right next to it to be notified with each new video. Until next time, this is it for Sweet Spot.